Delighted to be here to have a conversation with you today and to be asked to talk at the start of this session. Looking at the agenda, I think you've got some great topics to explore, and I think everybody will benefit if there's some good engagement in the Q&A session. So I'm looking forward to those particular sessions as well. Please contribute. I went for a low-tech answer today. I thought, send some slides. I'll send one. It's about choices, and it really just made me think a little bit about why and how do you make choices. I want to look at this through the lens of individuals. There are many railway engineering practicing professionals with all sorts of functional expertise. Our chair for the day is an engineering expert from a track perspective, so we've got a lot of capacity and capability both online and in the room. But I want to look at this a little bit through the individual and what we get guidance and frameworks from our organisations, from many sources. But you as an individual have a key role, every single one of you, in whatever your role is. And I think you have that ability to influence that you probably underestimate. So part of what I'd like you to think around both today and going forward is what impact you can have, what choices you make, and how they can make a difference for what you do, and the outcomes that you're looking for in your professional life with regards to that. Context, just now we've got the approach to the next control period. CP7, I think, will be a little bit more challenging than CP4, 5, and 6, probably. I think there is a tighter funding settlement. Maybe not a headline, but inflation's been quite a challenge for a whole lot of sectors across the whole economy. We're still suffering the backwash and the economic backlash of things like the COVID pandemic, and the general health of the British economy is probably in the could do better box. We've had decisions made on curtailing the northern sections on HS2, and Great British Railways is still in the plan, but it's still in the plan. We haven't got an implementation timescale and steps forward. So that's something that we'll need to manage with change or adjustment as it arises. So thinking about some of those potential constraints, I don't think there are any magic money trees. I think we are going to have to make some challenging choices over the coming years to make best use of the resources available. Are we used to making some of those difficult choices? I think perhaps some of the decision makers and the contributors over the last few years have probably been used to a slightly more versatile and comfortable environment. It probably didn't feel like it at the time, but there's certainly, I think, a bit of a challenge in terms of making the right decision with scarce choices on funds or scarce resources. So what approach and what skills do we think we might need to make the best use of that? And set against that, have we got people with the flying hours or the experience alongside us that might help inform if they've had that experience in the past? I think our demographic change is moving some of those individuals out of the industry as they retire or move on to new chapters in their life. I think there's probably an area of experience that is potentially lacking, but that doesn't bother me, I don't think. I think we've got the potential to fill that with the right support and the right attitude and approach. We've got a railway engineering community, whether your focus is on design, installation, on renewals, on maintenance, life enhancement or extension, that's got to be aware of all of these things. And in that context, I probably wanted to just touch then on how you might make choices or decisions as part of that railway engineering community. Do you make it very data-driven? Is it driven by facts that you've relied upon or gathered or tested? Do you end up with information overload as a result? Or very good reasons, it seems at the time, to procrastinate or further delay? Do we utilise some of the digital sources and inputs that have multiplied over the last few years? What's the role of artificial intelligence? And do we understand how beneficial or challenging that could be? Do you prefer to choose or decide on instinct? Is that your default setting, and then you marshal the facts to suit your instinctive answer? A lot of us have a knowledge or experience-based approach that's maybe supported by key competence or professional training. But we want to think about the basis of our choice. What criteria are you using or testing to make the best use of the day-to-day challenges you face in your job, whether it's in track renewals, whether it's in asset management, whether it's in maintenance? I think we've got to make sure we test objectively how we tackle some of those things. Are we valuing that properly? Do we consider cost and time and benefit? But we don't do it to the nth degree. We don't wait for that final piece of the jigsaw. Speed of decision is really important. So I sometimes have the sort of phrase thrown at me, but I also use it where perfection is the enemy of the good. I can wait and make a perfect decision, but a good decision would have been much, much better 2 weeks ago. And I think sometimes it's very easy for us to wait for that final bit of validation, and we need to test that and move forward. So as we're thinking about anything that we tackle, a timely choice, even if we have to course correct later, is often better than the perfect choice too late. I think the other factors that have started to change in our choices is our willingness or not to accept diverse or different inputs. Many of us as individuals and as parts of organisation are looking at better or different inclusion and diversity. So are we tapping into new sources of information? Are we able to acknowledge and accept a different view from what our own historical or inverted commas proven, close inverted commas, approach has been? I think we need to encourage that access, that opportunity, that difference of view. And that's really difficult, especially if we're not attracting different capabilities into the sectors and areas that we work in. Final area around that, how we might make choices, in maybe touches on collaboration and collaborative working. In the track renewals world specifically, there are many good examples of collaborative working through alliances, and there are other areas that are being tested in Eastern, in their enterprise model, in Southern, putting together many different contributors for different asset classes, and on individual projects using things like Project 13 model that the ICE originally piloted, and jobs that are coming to fruition like the Leavenmouth project in Fife have seen some really strong benefits as a result. So that kind of collaborative engagement and working is a key part of helping make some of these choices. But it's also one or two common factors stand out in all of these. They are individuals' collaborative behaviours. So it's what you do as an individual and how you engage with others. It's not some fancy model or process. It's very, very focused on how well the individuals do or don't engage. What else helps? When we're making choices, we've got lots of guidance, standards, codes. They give us a framework, but I do want us to test some of those standards and guidelines. I think this is an area where we have moved away from what might be an inquiring approach historically. I think as individuals, each of you as professional engineers or project managers or surveyors, whatever your professional background, you can bring an inquiring mind. try to test and understand where and why they say what they say. And do you know what the boundaries are, not just of the standard and the reason for it, but also of your own knowledge, where you might need some support and some additional areas of competence or reinforcement. I do like to think about it as a kind of system thinking, or systems and subsystems working together. So when you are focusing on some of these standards and guidance, how do they fit together with the complementary elements? They're not always signposted as holistically as you would like. So please have that in your mind as you're testing it. And probably start from a position that says, do I need to intervene at all? I'll definitely save money if I don't need to do anything. So let's ask ourselves that question. Am I doing it for the sake of it, or because it's on a list somewhere? What's the driver? What's the outcome that we're really interested in? I think you'll see later in the agenda some testing on R&D and the use of that to help drive better value and improved unit rates. I think we need to be curious and think about what innovative solutions we can test and use. Yes, in a sensible and safe environment, but we do need to push and test them just to try and make sure that we can get a different approach and we're not missing the opportunity to step things forward. And as individuals, especially if you're challenging some of these standards or guidance or the way it's always been done, I think you need a bit of personal persistence and resilience. You probably need to accept that you're going to have to ask 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times and make the case in different ways, because it's a fairly inertia-ridden industry that we sometimes work in, and the supertanker can take a long time to change course, even or especially when you're right. So be courageous around that. Keep pushing that and keep being probably a little bit annoying and irritating. Don't be shy about trying to push and test those boundaries if you believe you've got a really valid point to make. And if you collaborate to improve that outcome, I think it will further our knowledge and you will definitely get a better answer. So in summary, I think it's an issue around being curious around what choices you want to make. Why are we doing that? What are the alternatives? Could I do nothing? How do I get best value or make my chewing gum and piece of string extend for a long way? We do have to keep things going well, I think, whilst we're making the right choices for the very scarce investment. Yes, against a backdrop of system integrity and safety, and nobody will ever ask you to walk away from that. But you need to make sure we're not wasting money, not wasting effort, you're not wasting your personal inventiveness and opportunity to make a real difference. Think about the outcomes that you want and try and make sure it's landing well with the key stakeholders. And I think collaborate so that you do get some more diverse thinking into what you do on a day-to-day basis. Everybody, both in this room and online, can definitely make a difference. You're not a lost part of a big organisation. It's you as an individual that has the opportunity to cast your shadow and to see what effort and energy and change that you can bring forward. So I'd ask you to think about making that difference in small incremental steps, yes, but do the things that you can do and be challenging in testing, because as we look forward, we want to use our resources well. We want to make sure we've got sustainable and good value answers that help us address things like the climate crisis, are a sustainable long-term solution, as well as giving some great asset management and infrastructure solutions for everybody. And once you've made those choices, please own them. They're your choices. Don't be a victim and say it's because the standard said or because somebody else told me to do this. Be challenging, be thoughtful, be different, and have that impact that you can have as an individual. It's very rare that I come across anybody that can't make a difference and the ones that do want to. So please enjoy it. It can sometimes be a bit scary, but there will be people and colleagues and organisations you can work with to make that feel a little bit better. I hope you enjoy the rest of the session today. There's some really interesting talks coming up, and don't be afraid to make some interesting or challenging choices. Thank you.